What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winner Take All, where I discuss some of the most awesome manga chapters of the week. In this week's episode, we've got One Piece 1060. Amazing bombshells to discuss. We got Black Clover chapter 338 with a little shocking twist that nobody saw coming. We got My Hero Academia 366 taking it to, dare I say it, apex levels. And then we got the absurdity and insanity of Chainsaw Man 2 with Chainsaw Man chapter 104. Now with this episode, I want to start trying something a little bit different. Opposed to giving you guys a straight beat by beat rundown of the chapter, I want to mainly focus in on the key elements of each series' chapter that we talk about. That way we don't just talk about kind of like random stuff and we can really get to it, so to speak. So hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, let's get into this, shall we? Winner take all. I must go, must leave this house. I must go, the time is now. I must go, it's time to get out. Oh, and before we get started, quickly hit that subscribe button and that bell to get notified. I talk about anything and everything in the world of anime and manga, and I would love it if you would join me on this ride of anime and manga fandom. So please hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Okay, people, so let's cut the malarkey. I want to start off straight away talking about One Piece chapter 1060, because I ain't gonna lie, when I read this, I was like, oh, Oda is just bombshell after bombshell. He is hitting home run after Wano. I don't even know, like, it feels like Oda can't miss. Every freaking chapter, from Blackbeard freaking approaching Hancock and choking her out, and Rayleigh showing up to save the day and shit, like, it has just been absolutely amazing. I've been loving every chapter. Like, it's wild to say because, again, Wano was at a climax, but a lot of these chapters I'm just going crazy, way more so than even some of the climax of Wano, and take that as whatever you want. I did love Wano, but this is just hitting at a whole new level, and that's probably because we're at endgame, right? We're at the final saga of the series, so to speak. So Oda's not playing no more, and because he has a lot of things to address, he's addressing them straight away, but at the same time raising major questions. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, because a lot of people I've been seeing, especially over on Twitter, have been calling out this chapter saying Oda inserting more stuff into this. When the hell did Luffy have another dream aside from being Pirate King? And I literally went back and I saw the chapters, like the flashback when he's talking to Sabo and Ace and whatnot, and they were saying their dreams, and when Luffy said his, it wasn't actually said. He said, I'm gonna tell you guys, and then they kind of just laughed at him and said he's, you know, very childish and whatnot. So has always been there. It just hasn't been really pushed forth because Luffy never shared it with the Straw Hats. Now, we start off with pretty much Luffy not wanting to believe that Sabo killed Cobra, which, yo, that's his brother, and he knows his brother more than any of these other people, especially the bond that they have. So I like to kind of see that, and I felt like this chapter brought out more personality out of Luffy than we probably ever seen, because it's kind of hitting close to home, right? You think about it, like, this is now his brother. He lost Ace beforehand. He's going to be a little bit more out of character than normal because he don't want to lose another one. He just got the compliment saying from Marco that Ace would be proud of him right now. So you're gonna see Luffy not wanting to believe it, and at the end of the day, because he knows his brother, he's gonna get a little bit more, I don't want to say eccentric, but it just felt like we're seeing more to Luffy's personality than we've ever have, especially with this chapter. And when he said, like, yo, let's set a course for Alabasta, personally, I was like, dog, so let me get this straight. You want to go back to the other side of the Grand Line, going under Fishman Island all the way to Alabasta? I thought to myself, dog, there's no way in hell Oda would even green like that for a split second. Maybe at the end of the series, we might go back to the other side, but that would be insane. And Zoro's character, yet again, showing why he's the right hand man, because he pretty much has to set Luffy straight of, like, and sometimes you got to be the bad guy. It is what it is. If you got to be that, so be it. He's like, yo, just like the way you trusted Ace to do his adventures, we got to trust Vivi at the same time. You got to have faith in them to be able to, you know, accomplish their missions. We can't just steer clear of what we're trying to do because they're in trouble. If anything, that would kind of be like disrespecting them. Also, again, like I said earlier, even more so of seeing Luffy's character, where he's like, nah, I don't buy it for a split second. There must be a big mistake mistake about Buggy becoming an emperor and the whole cross guild situation. I think probably to a certain degree it would be like, well, not only of course that he's just not gonna believe it, like dog, Mihawk and them, they're not gonna crocodile, like they're not gonna be under Buggy, but even more so, like imagine achieving a big milestone, right? Like now Luffy's one of the emperors, and then while you achieve that milestone, somebody that you know is full of shit, not really on that type of vibe, is all of a sudden crowned right along with you. It will probably feel like to you that your goal has just been somewhat diminished because, dog, if you don't get this bozo out of here, bozo, and he's a clown, hey, perfect, but if you don't get this bozo out of here, stop playing with me. So again, getting more of Luffy's personality, and I want more of this. Like, don't get me wrong, the quiet captain that's just kind of goofy is dope and all that stuff, but actually seeing more layers to his character, especially considering we're heading towards endgame, I like it. And then we cut to Luffy reflecting on his dreams. Like we get the flashbacks of him and Sabo and Ace when they were children and whatnot, and it's kind of crazy again that this has been in the story for a long time, but because One Piece is so long, a lot of us are gonna forget. So when I saw people on the timeline screaming, I was like, damn, he really never actually mentioned this or whatnot. But no, this is just another classic case of Oda setting something up like a decade ago and then coming back to it, because wow, it's been more than a decade now that I think about it. Those manga chapters, for example, where Luffy was with Ace and Sabo had to have been like pre-2010, because that flashback arc was after Marineford, and that was probably like 09 or something that those oh my God, I've been doing this for too damn long. But that flashback was not only important to setting up for what Luffy is about to say about his dream, but even more so reinforcing that, yo dog, Sabo, he had a strict upbringing and he just wants to liberate people so that way they don't feel the same pain as him. Like, that's not Sabo's bag to just go and kill off somebody, especially as righteous as Clover was, and all of the Straw Hats' reactions. Like, this chapter was just filled with so much richness, so much character, and then of course big plot developments, because then Luffy brings out like, yo dog, this is my dream, and his dream apparently makes all of them look at him like, yo dog, are you really like a kid? Like, what's going on? And Offer, if I want to ask you guys, what do you think Luffy's dream is? Like, it clearly has to be something ridiculous. It could be as simple as him wanting, you know, a never-ending supply of meat, although it seems like it's something to do with him. Like, I don't know, it could be something that he wants to just turn into a life-size piece of meat, pause like a motherfucker, but like maybe it could be something as silly as something to do with food. But either way, it's something connected to that he feels once he becomes Pirate King, he can actually accomplish. And even though it would be righteous, like, yo, he wants to give never-ending meat supply to people around the world, I don't think they would necessarily laugh at that, because he would basically be curing famine. So only thing I could come up with again is something to do with meat. I don't know what it would actually be, but that probably could be the case. Or maybe, I don't know, he wants to be a freaking astronaut, who the hell knows, right? And then boom, an L shows up. No. But he also says that that's what he wants at the end of his dream. And yeah, again, it can't be anything dark either. It can't be that he just wants to die after the fact, because they were all just like, you know, joking on him and laughing. Even he says, when I told Shanks that, he was crying from laughing so much. So again, it has to be something very goofy and wacky, which is par for the course for Luffy. I don't know, his name is Monkey D. Luffy. Maybe he wants to live life as an ape moving forward, and Gear 6 is going to be he turns into an ape, and at the end of One Piece he just wants to run free in the wild, which I ain't mad at that. He's Monkey D. Luffy. You never know. But we also got major bombshells right here that what's left of the journey is to find one final poneglyph, and then it's off to Laugh Tale. So they just got one last piece, which that's where it's like, okay, is it going to be Elbaf? Is this where we're going to go with it? Maybe the final poneglyph is on Elbaf, and that's why nobody's seen it for a long time. I believe Robin says that poneglyph has not been seen in ages, so maybe it could be the whole Elbaf thing. I mean, that's been set up for a long time, and I wouldn't be mad if that was like the last island they go to before they go to the final island. And Elbaf having the final poneglyph, it would make sense because nobody's been there since Big Mom ate everyone. And then we get to the big shabanga. Well, there's still even more after it, but we get to the big shabanga that the Sabo call to the Revolutionary Army was intercepted by the world government. And things got a little bit muddy there for a minute, because for starters, the world government says that it's Leloucha Island, and apparently They were one of the 8 of the nations that were a part of their, you know, conglomerate, so to speak, and they just days ago recently pulled out. And when we cut to the island, we see that the nobles were like tied up or whatnot, and it had people. I was like, yo, did Sabo have those people tied up and made that whole call to kind of infiltrate and, you know, remove them, so to speak, from the fold? Like, that was something that was a little bit off. But man, talk about bone chilling scariness of setting up that this king is truly an absolute menace. Because as the call is going and the world government is there like, what the hell is going on, we're getting the cuts of whatever that thing is, and it clearly has to be something out of this world that Sabo, as he's starting to tell the revolutionary army, boom, one of the big things that Oda just set up, and it gets confirmed that no, Sabo didn't kill Cobra. Thankfully, like, even though some questions were raised in this chapter, some of them were answered that, hey, Sabo wasn't the killer, which I called it. I mean, I said that probably Cobra wasn't going to be dead. Probably Cobra is dead at this particular point. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Vivi is the real king all along. Imagine. But then I'm wondering, like, again, more of this shit, because there seems to be like a black something in the sky that's forming, and it wasn't just described as like regular clouds. Like, yeah, the sky was getting cloudy, but it was almost as if there was some sort of figure, like maybe a godly creature up there or whatnot, as this is surfacing. And that would make sense because nukes, as Sabo is describing that he saw something in the throne room, the Iron Throne is not empty. There has been a king sitting in that chair all along, which is really freaking eerie now that I think about it, considering that we just got in the UK the new king over there. Like, very bizarre, Oda dropping these bombshells now. Like, Oda. And pretty much that evil king says, yo, Lelouch never even existed, and it gets nuked the island, which off rip I'm like, okay, how the hell Sabo's gonna survive that? Is Sabo gonna actually be dead, or is he gonna be like damn near burnt to a char? Also, what the hell was that? Could it be that they're gonna start, or Oda's gonna start introducing concepts like giant mechs in the sky? Maybe this was a giant mech that the king has and he launched the nuke shortly after, or it could be something like a atomic bomb creation. Again, let's not forget that there's somebody, a mad scientist like Vegapunk, that is in the story that could easily create giant mecha. Also, the creator of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, always really wanted to do a mech series after One Piece. He said, I've done some mech in the series, so I don't think I'll even do that after One Piece. Maybe it could be a giant mecha in the sky that Vegapunk created for the king. Maybe Vegapunk is the king. Like, so many crazy theories I just threw at you guys. And of course, due to that massive explosion, which makes me wonder how far away was Lelouch. I mean, I know obviously if something happens, you know, in the ocean, it eventually affects even other nations nearby. That's how hurricanes and tsunamis affect the weather, even over here in the States, even if it happens like a bajillion miles away. Pretty much a tsunami is formed and it starts heading towards the Straw Hats' boat, and Zoro's like, oh, I'm Zoro. Cuts that shit in half, sending out jewelry, Boney from the frickin' tsunami, and a kid form at that, which is kind of crazy. That what relevance to all of this is she gonna have? In case you don't know, the theories has been floating around a long time that Jewelry Boney is actually Luffy's mother and she just de-ages herself, which I'm kind of a little iffy on that. You know, there's a couple of theories that Crocodile is his mom because, you know, Crocodile and the whole deal that he made with Ivankov. There's the Jewelry Boney. I think it would fit very well right here, especially Endgame, if, hey, Luffy's mom is on the final crusade with him towards the end, because obviously Jewelry Boney's gonna have to be there. But also, now that I think about it, wasn't the last time we saw her, wasn't she like captured by the Navy or something? I forget, it's been a little bit. I know that for sure Blackbeard had her, and then the Navy showed up, Akainu and them, and then suddenly I think we did see her in New World here and there. It's been a little blur at this point, but kind of interesting that there's been theories that she's had some sort of connections to the world government, and then shortly after this, boom, she's on Luffy's ship. So it could be that she's a runaway royal, similar to something like Sabo, and that's why she's going to be significant to everything happening moving forward. Honestly, this chapter was incredible, amazing. Again, I gotta ask you guys, for starters, what is Luffy's dream? It's got to be something wacky. Could it be that he wants to live life in the woods as Monkey D. Luffy, or he wants to, I don't know, have a never-ending supply of meat, and he thinks if he becomes Pirate King, that'll get done? Also, Sabo at this point? Do you think he's dead? Oda's been doing these Sabo dead fake out bits for a little while now. I've just got to throw that in there. Like, hey, you know, that was one of the first things that happened that we found out, like, oh, he's still alive, even though we thought he was dead. Do you think he's going to be dead, or he's going to come back and he's going to be like super charred up? How the hell could he possibly have gotten saved? Or maybe that wasn't actually a nuke at all. Maybe it's a device that like relocates this island to somewhere super far away that nobody could get to, and Sabo has to find a way to come back. What the hell did Sabo see at the Iron Throne Room? What is this king at that point? What blasted the island, and what significance is Jewelry Boney going to have to all of this? Do you think, again, she's a runaway noble, or she's tied up? Who knows? Maybe she's Akainu's daughter or something, or the theory that she's Luffy's mom. And your real thoughts and expectations for One Piece with chapter 1061 and beyond. I gotta, again, Oda, incredible work, amazing chapter. Mwah. Then let's mosey on over to Black Clover again. I believe chapter 338, the land of the rising sun. Obviously Asta is shocked, like, holy shit, I'm really far away from the Clover Kingdom. I've never seen anything like this before. After that girl had opened up the door, and dude, we gotta wait a long time. I just gotta say, Yami's sister, yo, Ichika Yami, baby. Tabata, I ain't mad at it at all. Yami's the best character in Black Clover. Now you're giving him a badass little sister. But I'm gonna keep it real. I do think that there's something afoot going on here. And if you've been following my reviews for a long time, you know that I'll come with a conspiracy theory here and there, like Noct might be evil. Obviously that didn't pan out, but I don't know about this Ryu guy. I'm just saying. Because Tabata covered a lot of ground with this chapter. Pretty much introduced the idea of what the Shogun is to people that don't know what a Shogun is. Ryu tells Asta pretty much like, hey, the Shogun is like the wizard king of our country over here, so he's the leader essentially. But it's interesting, well, how did he become leader if, aside from his eye, which, don't get me wrong, that is very, very useful to be able to see things all over the place. It's kind of like something in Boruto that was introduced not that long ago. But either way, that is a great power, but that doesn't give you the power to be able to fight people off, other than the fact that he has these people at his tutelage, these 7 Ryuzen or whatever. Like, maybe that's why. But him becoming like the wizard king, the shogun of the land of the rising sun, makes me wonder, well, if you don't have the powers or capabilities, how did you manage to get this position? Is it just solely off of your vision and what you're able to see around? But either way, that girl Ichika, I love the setups how Tabata did it, where she's like real freaking mean and menacing looking to Asta in the room, and Ryu's like, hey, how about I take you a tour of Wano? No. And we get introduced to the concept that over here it's not magic that they use, they call it sorcery, and to use sorcery they use these sorcery scrolls. So pretty much it's like magic objects instead of just like, well, not even magic objects, it's obviously scrolls. Like, think of a summoning scroll in Naruto, which pretty much makes me wonder, okay, so what's different about like all of the other nations that they're able to use magic, but over here they have to use like tools to be able to use magic? Is it because we're that far away from everybody, and could that have sprouted some bitterness in this Ryu guy? And I gotta point this out. There was a panel where Asta, he's seeing like a few different people around in this, you know, land of rising sun village or whatnot, and he sees some families that are walking by, and it reminds him of when he was little with Sister Lily. And of course, after Sister Lily just attacked him and everything that happened, Asta looks really traumatized. Like, this whole situation did a number on your boy. You could clearly see it. He's messed up over this whole thing. And here's where I start getting into what if, man. A little mistrust don't hurt, just to keep an eye out for things, pun intended with that one, because we see that Ryu has some sort of like thought, or something happens there, and he quickly goes to that family and moves them aside right as bandits are about to bust in, and these bandits break through. And I'm just thinking to myself, and I'm gonna throw it out there right now, what if this was already planned? What if this Ryu guy is not necessarily on the up and up? If we're thinking in terms of, which obviously Wano was based on Japan, I'm not saying that Wano is the blueprint. This is just Japan, but imagine he's on some like Orochi One Piece stuff. You never know, dog. What if this was all planned to begin with? What if Ryu doesn't even have any powers and this has all been a lie about this eye of his? What about if it's just been that like he had somebody that goes and spies on Yami, or there's something other than that and he actually planned this? Or it could be that his eye does work, but he planned these bandits to show up so that he could show Asta like, yo dog, you know, we got strong people here, you should stay here and train. I'm just saying, again, he could be legit, he could be a dope dude, but also the fact that he looks like Yami but his name is Ryuya Ryudo. Meanwhile, the one that doesn't necessarily look like Yami, Ichika, is actually related. Something could be afoot. Maybe this guy ain't on the up and up. Maybe he doesn't have no powers and he was pulling leg, or he does have powers but still he's up to a scheme of sorts. I guess the biggest question though is, what would he be scheming on Asta for? Like, could it be something to do with a grudge against Yami? Hey, I'm gonna train him, he's gonna become my student because I don't like you no more. And why is his surname different from the Yami family, despite the fact that, come on dog, he looks straight up like Yami, just slimmer and whatnot and with an eye patch. Like, and just as I thought, yo, Asta's about to show them what's what over here in the land of the rising sun, Ichika jumps in front of Ryu because they pressing him like, yo, what you gonna do about it? Which again, when Ryu says, but I have no sorcery powers, I can't do nothing, I'm like, but you're the Shogun. And in fact, why don't they even recognize, if you're like the wizard king of this whole place, unless they're invaders from outside, why wouldn't they immediately say, holy shit, we just broke in front of the Shogun? Unless he's not really, maybe this is all a scheme. Maybe the whole Yami family in general are all pieces of trash to begin with, and yeah, this is all just one big ruse, a bamboozle, so to speak, on your boy Asta. Because then Ichika basically calls them creeps and cretins and puts them to work. Definitely a Yami family member, because she did them in easy. And I was like, yo dog, this is also going to be very interesting, the way she like maneuvered on them, because now we're going to see Asta with potentially some new capabilities when he goes back over to fight against Lucius and all of the big finale that we're supposed to get. And of course the big setup again, that she is a part of the 7 Ryuzen. I'm wondering, are all 7 of them going to be like Yami relatives, or how's that going to work? But pretty much they're like the 7 swordsmen, so to speak, of the lands, and they run under the Shogun. And Ichika, she don't like men like Asta, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what is that supposed to mean? I guess technically when Yami first met Asta, he wasn't necessarily the most fond of him. I think it wasn't until Asta proved himself that he was like, okay, this kid, he's kind of dope. Remember, it was even a meme for a while when Asta first ran into Yami and there was like that menacing aura around him. Like, it could simply be that Ichika sees Asta as weak and she don't like weak guys because she's that badass. I mean, again, she's related to one of the most freaking badasses there is, Yami Sukehiro, which I just thought about it. What a subversion, because it always felt like, oh, okay, his last name is Sukehiro, but clearly that's his first name. His name is Sukehiro and his little sister is Ichika, which it also set up very well, because if his name was like a full-on Japanese name opposed to everybody in the Clover Kingdom that had like simple names, it makes sense that, yeah, he would have a Japanese name because he's from the land of the rising sun, that is of course based on Japan. And the chapter ended off there with Ichika basically saying again, I don't like men like you, I hate men like you, dog. Which I wonder what she meant by that. Could it simply have been that I don't like men that hesitate? Like, she hasn't liked him since he first showed up there. There's clearly gonna be something there. I'm wondering if shippers are already added, like, yo, Ichika x Asta, like it's Asta x Noel. Like, it feels like it's cemented in stone. That's not gonna happen. If anything, maybe they'll have like a brother-sister relationship and something like that, but I don't see that going down. Also, I just love the way she looks and the feel of this whole atmosphere. For a second there, I ain't gonna lie, it kind of reminded me even of like Soul Society and Bleach, because again, it's all based on Japanese culture, but just like the look, the fit, and all that stuff, I was like, okay, we've got something really nice here. Let me know what you guys think about it though. For starters, the big question, do you think that this Ryudo guy is on the up and up and he's legit? Do you think he's actually weak like that, or he does have some other strengths? Do you think his eye is legit? Do you think that that was a setup just to kind of get Asta roped in about this whole 7 Ryuzen thing of the bandits showing up? Again, why wouldn't they recognize the leader, so to speak, you know, the shogun of this land if he's that guy? unless there's something else at play. And your overall thoughts and expectations for where the hell this is all gonna go. What the hell happened for Yami to leave to begin with? And again, why didn't this Ryu guy go and get him? And I guess also this Ryu guy, when he's calming Asta down in the beginning, it's probably, if his eye is legit, that he already sees that the Black Bulls are gonna come and get Asta, and that's why he's telling him, yo, train here with the 7 Ryus and you can get stronger, and by the time they show up, boom bada bing, Asta will be ready. My Hero Academia fans, a lot of people have been having a lot of criticisms about the manga lately, but it looks like with chapter 366 it's ideally gonna be smooth sailing from here, because our boy Deku is finally on the scene. We got final forms, Apex, we got a lot of insanity going on in this one. Because off rip, because of all of these people being on him, suppressing him, using those powers like Eraserhead and whatnot, pretty much Shigaraki's body has morphed into somewhat of a defense mechanism, so to speak, which probably you could also argue ties into his trauma. He pretty much evolves into like this hulking form of, it's pretty much his apex form or whatnot, and it seems to be like, it kind of even reminds me now that I think of it, of Gigantomachia, like, you know, the big hulking form. And I'm gonna call it that. That's not the final form. Usually final forms, I mean, unless they're trying to do a subversion of the typical shonen formula of like the big villain, usually their final form is a lot more slimmed down and slender, and this could probably be like, if you think of Frieza back on Namek, he had that big form, but eventually when he went to his final form, so to speak, it was that, you know, the form we know of today that he mainly uses. This just seems like, yo, everybody's on top of him. He's one person fighting against damn near an army, so this is probably one of those defensive things. So again, I'm gonna call cap on this being his final form. Again, it was just even a question to begin with that was rose by, I want to say it was Best Genius, that said, hey, that is this his final form? So I don't think that that's his final form. Again, it's just probably some apex defense mechanism. As he's throwing hands with Deku, that's probably when he'll evolve into whatever he ultimately becomes, which I'd imagine it would be ideal for his final form to kind of look more or less like base Shigaraki with just like maybe some enhancements. Again, this form looks epic as hell, and it looks kind of gross at the same time. All of these souls and shit, or these, you know, forms of people that he knew. It's like, it's sick, but it ain't gonna be the finale. And once again, do I need to say it again? I think I do need to say it again. At the end of the day, the hero that I respect the most, or one of the, I want to say there's 2 at the very least, that I respect the most of all the pro heroes, I gotta say Mirko, because despite the fact that, yeah, she hasn't really done damage per se to Shigaraki, he's just unstoppable, he's broken, you could argue, but ultimately she's been the one that, even outclassed, outmatched, has been throwing hands the most. She's the one that's been on top of him the most. Like, all of these other people that are fighting against him are freaking kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got, of course, Deku that just showed up on the scene, you had Bakugo, you have all of these kids that are throwing hands. Meanwhile, Mirko has been on the front freaking lines, like same way that Endeavor has pretty much been the only one that's been fighting all for one on the other side of things. I mean, you got Hawks there and whatnot, but it's been Endeavor putting in all the work mostly. Mirko has been the one, so I gotta clap it up when she's basically once again fed up with him, and she's like, I'm done with your crap. I'm like, well, you're probably not gonna be able to do much, but I can do nothing but respect and commend her and say that she made most of the pro heroes look downright atrocious. Now granted, depending on what happens with her limbs and whatnot, I would throw the argument that she got to be at the very least by the end of this whole thing like top 2 heroes. Maybe like they'll put Best Genius as number 1, Endeavor will retire to kind of move him out that spot, Best Genius number 1 and Mirko number 2, or vice versa. It would be crazy if Mirko becomes the number 1 hero, and considering she is the one that's been doing all of this shit, I wouldn't be mad at it. I mean, there's the argument of, okay, what about Deku and the others? Are they gonna be, well, they're still technically students, and I'd imagine even after this they're probably still gonna stay academically as kids until they actually grow up or whatnot. I think that they're not done being in school, for crying out loud. They're only class 1A. They still got 2 and 3 to go. Maybe in a time skip spinoff, if that ever does come to fruition, then of course Deku will eventually be the number 1 hero, but I don't know if they would make a kid that still has a lot of growing up to do the number 1 hero just yet. I wouldn't be mad at either Mirko, if she gets healed up, or Best Genius being number 1, number 2 heroes after all is said and done, assuming Endeavor decides to step down following all of this. And then there was Medio. on one hand, I understand what he did in this chapter of why he got wacky with it, but for a moment there, it kind of threw me off. I'm not even gonna lie. And I remember people having these criticisms like in the 4th Great Shinobi War of Naruto, whenever there will be a silly moment like, this is very, very serious, dog. We just saw Bakugo die right before our eyes. Granted, he's getting revived now. Let's not open that can of worms, but we saw Bakugo die not that long ago. Like, this is serious business. So the Medio moments, because pretty much Medio has to figure a way to get Shigaraki's eyes on him. If it's just him, I mean, Shigaraki even calls him basically like a broken toy, so to speak. He's not really paying much mind to him. He's a ant, so to speak, in the grand scheme of things, according to, you know, Shimura. I keep saying Shigaraki, Shimura at this point. So Medio reflecting on Night Eye, which I thought to myself, I wonder what happened with Night Eye's premonition about All Might. I'm glad that Night Eye was referenced again, so it could bring people's minds back up to speed that that's still supposed to happen. All Might is still supposed to, maybe, potentially, I'm just saying. So I was glad that was referenced, but also it just kind of pushed forth that, you know, he has to do by any means necessary. Sometimes even if you got to make people smile, then you do that. And Medio twerking on Medio doing the butt gag, showing his behind to throw Shigaraki off. I'd imagine Shimura was there like, what in tarnation going on here, folks? Like, Medio twerking on Shigaraki in the middle of the war. Fam, a part of me is like, hey, it's strategic, right? They needed a few moments because they needed 2 seconds. They were dropping the electromagnetic field, so 2 seconds, okay, you know, that bought them the 2 seconds of Shimura just being like, why is this kid twerking? But to a certain degree, I was like, fam, I get that you want to squeeze in some comedy. It is so serious right now, but it felt like almost a Naruto part 1 type of gag in a weird way, in like the midst of a grand, you know, serious war. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Part of me likes it just because it's strategic. Part of me is like, you are fucking up the vibe here, fam. Or creating a new one, I guess, right? Like, yo, dog, Medio twerking 2022. Yeah, but fam, towards the end, I don't know what the hell inspired Horikoshi, but the art was just banging. I mean, the clear shot of seeing something in the sky, you look at Shimura's new form, just, oh my god, it was just absolutely gorgeous. You could tell Horikoshi been waiting for this moment. He's been waiting for the time where he brings Deku back into the fold, because then we get those awesome shots. Deku showing up, Shimura shocked there, and honestly, maybe it's just me or whatever, but it feels like we're in the finale. It feels like this is gonna be potentially the final fight. I mean, this is gonna be the final war, right? And if this is the climax, so to speak, Deku versus Shimura, I wouldn't be surprised if my hero, I don't want to say this, but doesn't make it out of 2022, or at the very least ends by like February. If it is indeed setting up like, hey, the final fight is set up, we got Deku here, we got Shigaraki there, the only other things that need to be really accomplished is, one, if Horikoshi decides to go the route of Shigaraki retaining who he is, basically clearing out all the cobwebs of his trauma, and all for one, he completely banishes that thought of him from his mind, and it's full on Shigaraki in there. That, if that's going to be where we go with it, needs to happen, and then they need a fight. That's pretty much what we got here on the field. Most of the pro heroes can't help out, so it has to be the both of them. It feels like this is the finale. It feels like, who knows, next week we could hear, hey, series is ending in 5 chapters. I would be very devastated and disappointed, to be honest with you. Like, there needs to be a lot more than 5 chapters, but you just never know, considering this is what we've been waiting for, and Horikoshi has been slowly biding his time, and Deku's here now. And I ain't gonna lie, like, we got Apex Shigaraki and Deku on the field. Curious what you guys thought about this chapter. For starters, do you feel like this chapter kind of yet again restored the feeling, so to speak? I was just kind of like, this is hype, this is fire. Your thoughts on Shigaraki's form? Do you feel like that is indeed his final form, or there's going to be another transformation? I'm calling it that. That's just a defense form. There's going to be something else after that. Did Medio's butt joke, his twerking on Shigaraki in the middle of the war, throw you off? Again, I was laughing at how ridiculous it was, but then at the same time, I was like, I don't want to laugh right now. I want to fear Shigaraki as he's supposed to be showcased. Fearsome, not, hey, Medio's got some cheeks there. Oh god, pause. And your overall thoughts and expectations. Do you think indeed this is the final fight of my hero? We're here, fam. The War Devil is scared of being forgotten. I think that's one of the biggest things you can take away from Chainsaw Man 104, is that Yoru doesn't want to be forgotten. War itself does not want to be forgotten. The War Devil pretty much explains to Asa in the beginning of this chapter that, hey, back in the day, I went up against Chainsaw Man. He ate a bit of me during this battle because I couldn't kill him. No matter how many times you kill him, motherfucker, just keep getting back up. And pretty much since that battle, since the War Devil took that L, there hasn't been any war since like the World War, so to speak, which really makes me wonder, like, are we gonna get more flashbacks of Chainsaw Man before Denji actually became the Chainsaw Man? Because we've already had references, and obviously Makima was a big fan of Chainsaw Man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Fujimoto decides to give us a straight up run of some chapters of, hey, look at Chainsaw Man before Denji, and hey, here's the user that had Chainsaw Man before Denji. Or was it just that Pochita, like, because there's still so many mysteries regarding Pochita, because obviously that's how Denji got the, you know, Chainsaw Devil to begin with, was via Pochita. I want to see that previous user and what happened, because at first, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little confused, like, wait a minute, is the War Devil confirmed to be like Makima about, you know, him eating whatnot, eating a piece? But then I was like, no, because Makima was the Control Devil, this is the War Devil, difference. And of course, because nobody really remembers the War Devil and war doesn't happen, it's been, you know, reduced to fictional video games and movies and TVs and stuff like that, similar to how pretty much it has weakened this person. With, you know, the Chainsaw Devil, the more people praise, the more weaker he gets. With this devil, with the War Devil, the more they're forgotten, the more they get weaker. So it kind of adds extra nuances to like the different devils, but this one in particular is, yo dog, if they don't remember me, I lose my power. And I think that that's dope. It gave characterization to Yoru. Like, we actually, with the few amount of chapters we have right now, got a full scope of not only Asamitaka, but also the War Devil, because Fujimoto easily could have ignored giving characterization. It's just, hey, flat out, this is a devil that wants war, point blank, period. The fact that there's more to it with this character gives a little more insight into, oh, okay, there's more to this than meets the eye. It's not just flat out, I'm evil. But I think if Asa and the War Devil Yoru kind of really come to a agreement that, yo, fuck Chainsaw Man, we riding together, that's when things are going to get problematic, and that's when we're going to get a super villain, so to speak. Assuming Fujimoto is setting up to go down that route, that Asa and the War Devil Yoru are the final villain. That would honestly blow my mind that pretty much we started this manga as if the MC was the villain. And the things that us Chainsaw Man fans die over, the absurdities, the insanity. Denji, we cut to him and he's being paid by a girl at school to be her chair, and god damn, it just reminds me of all the funny shit that we love from Denji from part 1. Like, a lot of fans were screaming, we want the stupid shit, we want to see Denji acting dumb again, like we miss all of that crazy shit we got in Chainsaw Man, and Fujimoto delivers. But Yoshida, of course, with his goal of making sure he protects Denji's identity, comes over and yanks him out and is like, hey, you forgot your ID at the scene. And off rip, let's just throw it out there, either Denji, because he's very, you know, silly, dumb, he doesn't understand how to do this, or maybe there's a part of Denji that honestly doesn't want to be discovered. Like, when Yoshida gets to the bottom of it and basically presses him like, yo, why are you doing all of this? Is it because you just want a girlfriend? Then it probably could be the case that no, Denji rather remain somewhat anonymous in terms of his identity, but it really is simply with the girlfriend situation, because realistically, leaving your ID behind, like, you don't need to even do all of that. You go to where there's a news report, turn into the Chainsaw Man after saying, hey, I'm Denji and here I am, and turns into the Chainsaw Man, boom, there, everybody knows. So it's either playing off the fact that, again, Denji is kind of dumb, or the fact that, hey, he really deep down doesn't want everybody to know, because again, it hasn't been showcased yet in this part, but don't forget, he's raising that little girl Nayuta, and if everybody knew that he was the Chainsaw Man, that would be problematic and compromising her safety. Anybody would run around and try to capture her or kidnap her to get to the Chainsaw Man, and it would kind of give him essentially a kryptonite now. So maybe there's a part of Denji that is bullshitting. Like, again, it's just really all about, dog, he want to get in some jeans, he misses what he was filling up on with power, you know what I'm saying? And I ain't gonna lie, I freaking died in my chair practically when Yoshida says, alright fam, well, what's your type? What type of girl you like? What's your type? Let me play wingman, so to speak. And his response being, a girl that's desperate for a boyfriend. Wow. And it's even funnier to add insult to injury that he goes straight away to a scene of Asamitaka there on a rooftop with Denji and Yoshida, because if you remember, it was just a few chapters ago that Asa pretty much came out of the blue and, you know, asked Yoshida to be her boyfriend. And of course in Japanese culture, that's kind of a what? The girl went and blatantly asked and got turned down at the same time. So in Yoshida's eyes, she's desperate for a boyfriend. And man, I love some of this stuff. Like, this is why, and people come at me sometimes when I say this, I'm not really here for Chainsaw Man's like blood and gore. Like, don't get me wrong, the action be insane, and I love mostly everything about Chainsaw Man, but the heart of this show, the meat of it all, is not even just necessarily in the absurdities, but within these characters that are so unique and show different sides that you normally don't get in literature, in terms of everybody is freaking wacky. This is a little bit of a slice of the real world of how people aren't all the same. Some people are crazy, some people are bugged out, some people are desperate for boyfriends and girlfriends. Like, it gives you different sides that, again, especially with like shonen manga, you never really get like relationship stuff like this. And if you do, it's usually standard, I'm shy, blah blah blah. No, it's Denji is down horrendous and simping like a motherfucker for any bitch that wants him, you know what I'm saying, or will come to him. And then on top of all of that, Fujimoto adds an extra element and dynamic of, hey, by the way, this is directed to Chainsaw Man fans, because when Denji is talking to Asa about, like, you know, Chainsaw Man, whatnot, she used to hate him as it was set up in the beginning of the manga. Now she's kind of neutral, but still has some of that begrudging feeling within it, because she's like, well, you know, he's covered in blood and he's nasty, he only saves women, he's horny and gross. Like, she kind of really goes in, and pretty much Denji is defending at every given turn. So of course Denji's gonna defend, like, yo dog, you talking shit about me. And on top of that, it showcases that, again, Asa is toting on that line, right? It could take one event, all it takes is one for her to be like, yo, Yodo's right, fuck this dude, he's a fuck boy, get him out of here. Because even at one given point, Denji has to admit, well, I did eat just one person, when she's like, yo, I heard he even eats people. Like, no, that's probably like fictitious to a certain degree, because nobody really knows that he ate Makima, but it was just the one time, you know what I'm saying? And the biggest piece was when she says, yo dog, and that's what I hate about you Chainsaw Man super fans, y'all defend everything. And yes, we do. I'm not even gonna lie, in my mind, Chainsaw Man is pretty much perfect. There's not much, and you probably never really, unless Fujimoto drops the ball immensely, will hear me saying, man, fuck that shit, yo, this chapter's horrible, or something like that. Maybe we had some slow chapters in the beginning, but for the most part, Chainsaw Man is incredible, and a breakaway, a subversion from the shonen battle series genre itself. Like, yeah, we're gonna defend it, I'm sorry. And maybe that's Fujimoto there again saying, like, this is what some people say about Chainsaw Man super fans, but I don't know. If you got a problem with me loving Chainsaw Man, well, fuck you then. I love Chainsaw Man. And Denji, which I guess I gotta just attribute it again to his stupidity, is like, well, you know how I know about all these things of Chainsaw Man and you don't? I'm him. I'm Chainsaw Man. And I'm there, like, for a second there, I was like, oh shit, it's about to get real. But Asa pretty much feels like, oh, this loser, and walks off on him. Oh my god, this is what I love about Chainsaw Man. The action and the horror and all that stuff is awesome as well, but this right here is freaking amazing. Because Yoshida's like, well, that wasn't gonna work if you think you're gonna reveal yourself like that. And again, it brings me back to the question of, if he really wanted to prove his point, turn into Chainsaw Man right there. Why not? Like, you don't really want people to know you're Chainsaw Man. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Denji could have a girlfriend that doesn't know he's Chainsaw Man, he probably would prefer it. It's just that he's so down bad and desperate that he's willing to tell anybody, look, I'm Chainsaw Man, fuck me. But amazing chapter of Chainsaw Man, absolutely loved it. Just perfectissimo. I didn't even say it right. Perfect. I love it. God damn it. Like, oh, it's so good. But let me know what you guys think regarding this whole situation with Chainsaw Man. What do you think about Yodo revealing her motives, essentially, of not wanting to be forgotten? It's kind of rather sad, to be honest with you. Also, Denji, this whole girlfriend situation. I just, again, absolutely love this series and how meta it gets. And your overall thoughts and expectations for Chainsaw Man with chapter 105 and beyond. This bi-weekly gruel. Man, I'm used to getting these these chapters every week. I'm a Chainsaw Man reader since chapter 37. God darn it, but it's okay. Fujimoto, get your rest and keep bringing us that greatness. Keep bringing us Denji as a fucking chair. Okay, people, and we reached that point of the show where I give you guys my list of what I felt were the best chapters of the week, of the 4 that we talked about in this show. And I'm going to start off from the bottom up. Now, I want to be very clear about this, that every chapter I talked about in this episode was really freaking awesome. I really enjoyed them. They all brought something to the table, whether it be advancements in the story, whatever. So by no means is this a slight to any of them, because legitimately I really enjoyed and I thought all of these chapters were awesome. But coming in at number 4 is Black Clover. Black Clover, it was a freaking awesome chapter introducing this whole Yami sister situation, a lot of mystique and developments and whatnot, so I definitely rocked with it. But for the most part, it was just a setup chapter. Then coming in at number 3, I kind of moved this back and forth. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually redoing this segment right now just because I had to correct this one a little bit. Despite my enthusiasm and fanboyism, I'm gonna put Chainsaw Man at number 3 because yes, there was some significance to it, finding out about, of course, the War Devil and their motives and Denji and all that stuff, but realistically I just loved it for the heart of it, and it wasn't like advancing things immensely. So while yeah, it was very big plays of, again, introducing certain elements and understanding Denji's dream per se to a certain extent, ultimately it didn't advance things again in a crazy way. Then number 2, surprisingly probably to a lot of people, My Hero Academia. The only aspect that I was like, ooh, was that Meteor joke, terribly placed, but it really brought us to what seems to be the finale, the end game. So I can't say anything but yeah, that was a very big deal. And then of course the great one, the only One Piece greatness. I mean, it was explosive, yeah, pun intended. But yeah, that's my list. Let me know yours, what you thought were the best chapters of this week. That's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day, and remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day, peace in, and remember, the winner takes it all. Have an awesome one.
I have a dream, alone in my room as I sit with the tea. Couldn't possibly think what I often see, and you don't even know how I often blink. Lights be flashing and looking at me, such an odd unique, yet I'm so unique and you're looking at me. If the walls could talk, they would probably read bleak, and I'd probably say, bitch, get the fuck off me.